Hi, I'm Wave Warrior, and this video will be a post-commentary on my Pokemon Sapphire any percent glitchless world record. This was the first record that has been gotten with the new Aber route, which was first theorized about 2 years ago. And so it took a long time, but this is the first time that world record has been gotten with it. So I'm going to go over talk through this route as it's playing. And I'll be going over all the interesting parts about this new route, comparing it to the old route, and talk about all the places where the new route is way better than the old one. So, first things first, you saw me do options right there. Text fast, animations off, battle style set. Those are very standard options for Pokemon speedrunning. Basically every game uses them. Going through the intro, not much interesting. I will mention we picked the girl and not the boy. The reason we picked the girl, as is explained many times in my stream, but it's fine. On Rival 2, depending on whether your rival is Brendan or May, they will send out their Pokemon in a different order. Brendan, as your rival, sends out a Numel first, which is better to set up on. Also, I'm sorry that the video is not going to have any audio in this. I didn't record my my own audio and the game audio on separate channels, so I would have to talk over everything I was saying during the run. So, unfortunately, no audio for the game. But going through the intro. First thing we do before we set the time, we actually go to the PC and get the potion. Our potion count on this route is extremely limited. We have a total of 5 potions that we can get for the entire run. This is the one part of this route that actually makes it that's not quite as good as the old route. On the old route, you had the opportunity to buy 2 extra potions if you needed to, which you often did. This route, your money is extremely tight, so you only have 5 potions total. This potion you get in the PC also oftentimes gets used before Calvin, because Calvin does a lot of damage, so you very often need to heal to full health for him. If you can manage to get past Calvin without using the potion, though, it's often very good. I can't remember what I get on this run. So now that we've gotten the miscellaneous intro stuff out of the way, we get to the first hard trick of the run, which is Mudkip Manip. This Manip is... There's a lot of parts to it, but the hard part is we have to hit a 1-frame window, which is about 17 milliseconds. In order to get a Mudkip with very, very good stats. The Mudkip is a naughty nature with very high stats across the board, except for defense. The defense isn't very good, but that's the worst stat. So it doesn't matter that much that the defense stat is not too great. Looking here, I see that the Poochyena is female, so I immediately know I either hit the correct Mudkip or I was 1 frame late. And then once I high rolled that tackle, I knew for a fact that I'd hit the correct naughty Mudkip. So at this point, I know that I have the correct Mudkip. From there, we actually chain this Manip into a no encounter Manip by timing when we end that battle and when we finish talking to Professor Birch here. We can actually aim for basically a 10-frame window in order to get no encounters all the way to Rival 1. So you see, I waited there for a second before clearing the last text box. I looked at the scientist and saw no movement, and then the fat guy on the right went up, down, up. And so from that, I know exactly what frame I hit, and I do a corresponding path through the grass in order to get no encounters. The way RNG manipulations work in this game is if you save the game and soft reset, the game will always set your initial RNG seed to the same thing. It's like decimal value 1440, I think. It's actually a bug. It's supposed to do it based on the internal clock of the cartridge, but because my cartridge is a dry battery, it seeds incorrectly and always does it to the same thing, which is very useful. I guess bug is the wrong word. It's a programming oversight. Anyway, this first rival fight, 4-shot with tackle. We hope we don't miss. Hey, we got a crit on this run. Nice. And so now, because my health is so high, I don't have to potion before Calvin, which is very good. That is an extremely good rival fight, getting a 3-shot instead of a 4-shot. So I guess not much interesting is going to be happening for the next minute and a half. So I'll talk about, in a high level, what is the new route compared to the old route, because I've been throwing those terms around. So the old route was a very kind of standard route of the run, where we would just try to minimize the time we would spend going between different gyms, try to minimize our movement as much as possible throughout the map. And it does a very clever thing in order to move quickly around the map. Because if for those who know this game, in order to fight the Petalburg gym, you first have to beat the other 4 gyms up to that point. And so the 4th gym generally is Flannery, which is all the way over in Lava Ridge Town. And then after that, we would have to get all the way back to Petalburg. And that's a really long distance, because you have to go all the way back to the start of the game, basically. So what the old route would do is a very clever poison death warp on Flannery, so that we would beat Flannery, get poisoned during the fight, and teleport back to Petalburg in order to save that movement. This new route, instead of doing that clever thing for fast movement, we instead take the time, manipulate and catch an Abra, and then if we set our hub basically at Mauville City, we can kind of teleport back to there and save a bunch of movement. I got pretty unlucky at the start of this fight. I missed tackle. This fight sucks. The Zigzagoon has tackle, tail whip, and growl, and we are speed tied with it. So there's a lot of troll things that can happen on this fight. But I got through it well enough. Nothing too bad happened. So after Calvin, we have a few more grass tiles. Get an early encounter in this patch. It's unfortunate. Unfortunately, we don't get repels until we make it to Petalburg. Oh, right. This was the run where I got 2 encounters in this one grass patch. That's very unlucky, actually. But we move through the grass to try to minimize the number of steps we take while still avoiding all of the optional trainers. We go into this mart. I go to sell for some reason. You're not supposed to sell on this one. But you buy 3 potions and 7 repels, which is all you can buy with the money. It's actually not quite enough. We need to pick up 1 extra repel in order to have enough. We'll get that later. And then we initiate the catch tutorial. Now, for those who know anything about this this speed run, you'll know that the Wally catch tutorial has some weird quirks associated with it. If you get insane, like 1 in 200,000 odds luck for this catch tutorial, it's actually possible for the Zigzagoon to kill the Ralts before he throws the Pokeball to catch it. There are a couple things that are fixed in this fight. The Zigzagoon will always use Tackle, the Ralts will always use Growl. And the Pokeball will always catch no matter what the HP is. but the stats on both of the Pokemon are random. Their natures are random. And all of the damage rolls on Tackle are also random. So if you get everything to line up perfectly, it is actually possible to for the Zigzagoon to two-shot the rolls. I got pretty high damage rolls on this one. Zigzagoon had a pretty good attack. But you need perfect luck in order to kill it. As far as I'm aware, no one has ever gotten it in a run. It saves like 20 seconds if you get it. I've gotten it down to 1 HP before. But I think the earliest frame where it works is like half an hour into the RNG cycle or whatever, so it's not like actually possible to get it in a run. Just because of how the RNG frames shake out. Also, both of them can be shiny. I've gotten a shiny Zigzagoon in that catch tutorial before. Right here, we do Wingull Manip. We need Wingull to teach Fly to, basically. And Wingull also has some other uses throughout the run that we'll get to very soon. So we save and reset. I look at the NPCs. Looking at those NPCs, the first one... I forget what the NPCs were, actually. But I looked at them and I knew what path I was on, and I took a specific running path to get the Wingull. Level 5 Wingull is actually the rarest encounter here. And then we manipulate the catch. This Wingull is manipulated to have very, very high special attack and very low defense. And low HP. And that will come in handy in a minute here. What you saw right there is known as a run to walk on the spinners. The way spinners work on this game is a bit complicated, but the high level part that's important to know is if you run near a spinner, they will always turn to look at you. And then if you stop running, they will be forced to look in that same direction for at least 32 frames. So if you can run near a spinner to make them look a certain direction and then pass them, within 32 frames, they cannot see you. And a run to walk is one method of doing that. I'll go over some others later. This is the Aquapooch fight. Aquapooch sucks. It has 3 moves: Tackle, Howl, and Sand Attack. Sand Attack is awful. Many, many runs have died on the altar of Aquapooch just from not being able to hit Tackle. This run went pretty solid. I missed 1 tackle, which is perfectly fine. Coming up right here, we're going to see another run to walk on a spinner. So you'll see I'll run up to 1 tile before I need to pass them, then walk 1 tile, and then start running again. It will force the spinner to look down, and then I'll be able to pass them on the right before he is able to spin. Run 1 below, walk a tile, run the rest. Walking is 16 frames per tile in this game, so you're able to pass him easily. This one is actually not a spinner, it's known as a rotator. Rotators are like spinners, but they spin in a predictable pattern. Like that one always goes left, down, right, up on very specific cycles. So that was just another example of a run to walk, but this one you had a lot more than 32 frames to pass her just because of how her cycle worked out. Alright, coming up here is youngster Josh. So the standard way to beat this fight would be to just mud slap 6 times because we don't have water gun yet, so we'd have to mud slap it down, and that's really slow. So instead, we swap in our Wingull, use water gun, that puts it down to low HP, and then the Wingull dies. Very important that the Wingull dies because we need to not split EXP on this fight. We need Mudkip to get all the EXP. And we throw Mudkip back in, and we Mud Slap, and this gets us just enough experience to get to level 10, at which point we learn Water Gun. and now we can just use Water Gun on all of these Geodudes. So it's a very cool strat. Unfortunately, if you crit Water Gun with Wingull and it kills a Geodude, that's a dead run. Because you need all of the experience on Mudkip. But when it works out, it's a lot faster than Mud Slapping. The Jujut all the way down. That was an optional trainer. This is also an optional trainer. We need a lot of EXP in the early game, and Geodudes give a lot of EXP for being one-turn kills, basically. So we kind of just farm EXP on these Geodudes. Yeah, I did change my stream title to post commentary. Potion for Roxanne here. There are actually some HPs where we don't potion because we can growl and kind of manipulate our HP to get at a good range for Torrent. But I did not have a good HP range on this run, so I just healed the full. Speaking of Torrent, Torrent is Mudkip's ability. If you are at a third of your maximum HP or lower, your water moves do 50% more damage. This is an absolutely insane ability that every starter Pokemon in every generation gets. Torrent, Blaze, Overgrow for Water, Fire, Grass, respectively. Absolutely insane ability. So you'll see at several points in the run we're going to manipulate our HP to be low so that we do more damage with our water moves. I got crit on turn 1 on the Nose Pass, which is one of the worst turns to crit on because, as you saw here, the Nose Pass has 2 potions that can get used on it. They only get used if he's at a little less than half HP. So if the Nose Pass is above half and then you crit to kill it, it skips past all those potions. We call that the magic crit. Which unfortunately I crit 1 turn too early. But I still got a pretty solid fight. Okay, every generation from 3 on, Matt. Every generation where abilities exist. Whatever. But yeah, if you're ever wondering why so many Pokemon games just main the starter all the way through, Torrent / Blaze / Overgrow, generally not Overgrow, but Torrent is like a huge reason as to why. One of the best abilities you can possibly get for a speedrun, to be honest. So we're through Roxanne. On this section, in a minute, we're going to fight one more optional, and that will get us just barely not enough EXP for level 16, which is when we get Marshtomp. So instead, in order to get level 16, we kill 1 wild Pokemon on this route. Unfortunately, I'm not in Torrent here, so I don't one-shot. Actually, that's a 16 with very high special defense, actually. That lived with a lot. Ideally, you get Torrent through the end of Roxanne, because it basically guarantees a kill on the wild Pokemon. And it also saves the turn on the upcoming Akapooch fight. So on that previous spinner, what you saw me do is you saw me run near the spinner, walk 2 tiles, open my pause menu, and then close it and pass. That is known as a pause buffer. Unfortunately, there was no way to pass that spinner in less than 32 frames by doing a run to walk. It takes exactly 32 frames to pass her walking if you do it optimally, which is not good enough, because on frame 32 she can spin and see you. So instead what we do is we take 32 frames to get 1 tile before her, which is walking 2 tiles, and then we open our pause menu. This lets us see whether or not she spun or not, which is a 1 in 8 chance for her to spin by that time. If she hasn't, then she's not able to spin for at least another 32 frames. So then it's a safe pass. But if we pause and she has spun, then we need to do another run Minip to make her look a good direction. Alright, this is Aquapooch round 2. It is about 20 times easier because you have Water Gun and are a higher level. I actually get the worst move here, which is Sand Attack, but you managed to get through with no issues. Coming up here, you're going to see that my Repel is going to wear out right before I pass the spinner again. This is the exact same idea as a pause buffer. We take advantage of the fact that the Repel wearing out text has to appear somewhere. Like at some point our Repel is going to wear out. So I set it up specifically so that it will wear out right before her so I can use it as a pause basically. And so we run up, walk 2 tiles, and I see that she hasn't spun, so I know it's a safe pass. And then we fight one last optional here, and this, along with the wild encounter, will give us just enough EXP to get us to level 16 and evolve. Out of Torrent, the Zigzagoon's at 15 and 16 range. The Machop is also a 2-shot range. I don't know what the percentage is. Something like 70 to 80%, I think. It's favored, but it's not unheard of to miss it. And we get the 2-shot. Thank you, Nicholas White. And so we get level 16 here, and we evolve, and very importantly, when we evolve here, we learn Mudshot, which is both the best and worst move in the entire run. Mudshot is an absolutely insane move for the early mid-game. It is ground type, 55 base power, and it always lowers speed. What is this image? Okay. Great photo of me, thanks. Mudshot, 55 base power. It gets Stab because it's a ground type move. Stab, same type attack bonus. You get a 50% boost to moves that are the same type as you. So Mudshot has effectively like an 87 base power at this point in the run. 82, I think, if I can do my math right. Yeah. Around 82 base power. And then, yeah, if we're going to get Soft Sand after Brawly's Gym, and that boosts it by another 10%, which it basically makes Mudshot like a 90 base power move for the early game, which is extremely strong. The downside is Mudshot is 90% or 95% accurate. So it almost always hits, but then sometimes it doesn't. And a lot of times when it doesn't, it's really bad. There are certain fights in the run, a lot of them actually, where you just can't miss Mudshot, otherwise you'll die, basically. And so it's a blessing and a curse. It's an extremely powerful move for the early mid-game, but just that 1 in 20 miss every time you use it. So right here, we're going to sell our Pokeballs and our Rock Tomb TM. And this gets us enough money to buy 2 Super Potions, 3x speeds, oh, messed up the buy there, 2 Super Potions, 3x speeds, and 4x attacks. This right here is the reason why our potion count is so limited. In the old route, we would only buy 3x attacks. And because of that, we could do things in order to afford 2 extra potions if we needed to. But with this route, we need that 4th X attack. And that makes potion count a lot more limited, unfortunately. So right now I have 2 potions. If you have less than 2 potions, you can pick up the Beach Potion, which is a couple tiles away. And I will actually end up picking it up later. So I'll talk about that later. But, yeah. So we have the PC potion at the beginning of the run. We buy 3 potions in Petalburg, and then there's the Beach Potion, and that is a total of 5 potions. And that is every potion we have access to for the entire run. And potion count is actually extremely limited. or extremely important rather, late game, setting up your HP good for Tate and Liza specifically. So now we get to the start of the new route. Everything up until this point has basically been the same as the old route, but now we're going to save and quit and manipulate an Abra catch. And this Abra makes this route so much better. I'll go into more details later as we kind of get to the places where it makes it better, but the idea is this route makes certain fights significantly safer. You are significantly less likely to die to those fights. And makes other fights more consistent. So faster on average, basically. And this route loses basically no time over the old route. It's hard to calculate exactly how much time on average is saved on certain fights, but this route is somewhere in between 10 seconds slower and 10 seconds faster than the old route, which is extremely small. It's a very minor difference. But it is so much safer, and anyone who has run Sapphire on the old route knows that this game on the old route is brutally punishing. It is so easy to die in the route. It's so hard to get a deathless run through. And this Abra route makes it way easier to do that. Abra's catch rating at Great Ball is something like 20%, I think, but we manipulate the catch. It's like a 21 frame window where we can throw the Great Ball and it'll get in. So yep, with this route we get the Abra, and I'll talk about what the big differences are as we get there, as we get to those fights. But this route was created by Gunner, myself, Polka Guy, Listless Salmon. Bunch of other people helped out as well. There actually was an Abra route before this one was made. It's very old and was considered a beginner route, and the reason for it was because it actually delayed Brawly until later in the run, and because of that, it was too slow. It was not viable for world record runs. Delaying Brawly loses too much time. But this route, we kept in the early Brawly, which is very risky, but it's a lot faster, and then we kind of borrowed some ideas from the old Abra route to make this one work. And there was one specific idea that actually made it fast enough to make this work. I'll talk about that later. That fight right there, you don't one-shot with Mud Shot. So we do Water Gun and then Mud Shot so that we don't get the speed fall animation from Mud Shot. Alright, this is Brawly. This is like the third most likely fight in the run to kill you. Something like that. It's stupid. This fight is awful. What we need to do is we need to start by setting up an X attack, and then this Machop. I got lucky on this run. I got Seismic Toss, which is the best outcome on turn 1. The most common outcome on turn 1 is Bulk Up. Bulk Up raises its attack and its defense, and it is scary when that happens. Because you don't 2-shot the Machop, you 3-shot it, and a bunch of stuff can happen. It's also really slow. But we got Seismic Toss, which means we just got an easy Machop. And we got Bulk Up from Makuhita, which we also 2-shot with Mud Shot. It's very annoying on the Makuhita. If you hit in the top 3 damage rolls, there are 16 total damage rolls every time you use a move. If you hit in the top 3, you actually deal too much damage to Machop and it heals to full. And oftentimes Bulk Ups, and then you don't 2-shot it anymore, and it's awful, and it sucks. But we got a very good fight this time. We got Seismic Toss plus Karate Chop on Machop, and we got Bulk Up on Makuhita. And that's just about the best outcome we could hope for. There are better outcomes, but, you know, if you get a fight like that, you're extremely happy. My last run that got to Brawly in this section, I missed Mud Shot on turn 1, and you just can't recover from that. So that's one of those fights where you can't miss Mud Shot. You just can't, otherwise you generally die. There's another one coming up very soon. And that's why Mudshot is such a fun move for the speed run. Alright, right here we're going to get the Soft Sand. It's a held item that boosts ground type moves by 10%. Very useful for Mudshot. Talk to this guy, and then we go to the museum, and we have the Aqua fights. At this point in the run, a 28-23 Brawly is very standard. It's a very average Brawly time. I had an okay Roxanne split at 1643, no torrent. I had an okay Brawly split. I didn't have torrent, so I lost a couple turns. But yeah, so this run up to this point is like extremely mediocre. There's nothing special about this run. These Carvanas both died to Mudshot. You're going to see me Mudshot a lot of Carvanas throughout the run. Also worth noting, Carvanas have the ability Rough Skin. What that means is if you hit a Carvana with a contact move, then you take, I think, 1/16 of your max health and damage. Most physical moves are contact moves, and most special moves are not contact moves, but there are exceptions, and it turns out that Mudshot is one of those exceptions. So we can Mudshot it and not get the Rough Skin. This Zubat, we tackled it first because Water Gun crit does not always kill from full, but tackle crit does. And then we Mudshot Carvana. And that's this fight. These fights look extremely simple when they go well like this. That Zubat sucks. It's a 1 in 3 to use Supersonic. And being confused is not fun. But when you just get Astonished, these fights go very well. Coming up with the next fight is Rival 2. Rival 2 uses some very interesting strats that only work specifically because we're able to get the Soft Sand in order to boost our Mudshot damage by 10%. We run around that trainer. I messed up my movement here a bit and got blocked. We equip the Soft Sand. We go up and repel. We don't heal. We do another pause buffer on that spinner, get the full heal, and then start this fight. So, for this fight, we need to set up 2 X attacks and 1 X speed. The reason why we want Numel as the lead here is because it basically uses tackle every turn, so we get very consistent damage. If we picked the boy as our main character and got the girl rival, May, she leads a Whalmer, which 50% of the time uses Splash, which does nothing, and 50% of the time uses Water Gun, which does about 10 damage. The consistent damage from the Numel is way more important. So we set up our 3X items, we heal to near full, usually it's to full, but we were at low health this time. And then kill the Numel. Now, after 1x speed, we are still slower than the Grovyle, and this is extremely important because the Grovyle will always use Absorb here, which is 4 times super effective and heals him for 50% of the damage dealt. But since he went first, he was already at full health, so he didn't heal any of the damage he took. And then we Mudshot, get the guaranteed speed fall, and now we're faster, so we can finish it off. It's a strat that looks very simple, but it's very cool how the routing works out for that fight. I also high rolled the first Mudshot, so it's able to finish with Tackle. Even though it's not very effective, Mudshot still does more with than Tackle against that Grovyle. If you miss Mudshot or Tackle on Grovyle, you die, by the way. So, yep. The old route would actually pick up a hidden revive right here in order to revive the Wingull. In order to use it to sack on a later fight. But on this route, we have Abra, so we can just use that to sack instead. So we don't need the revive. We're going to go and pick up Rock Smash, and we're actually going to teach Rock Smash to our Marshtomp, which is interesting, because Rock Smash is an awful move. It's 20 base power, 50% to lower defense, which is nice, and that gets used in Emerald, actually. But in this game, Rock Smash is basically useless. But we teach it to our main Pokemon, and that's because Swampert's Learn Set kind of sucks. It gets Mudshot in the early game, it learns Strength later, and then we're going to teach it Surf later as well. And like those are all the good moves that Swampert gets. It learns Earthquake, but not until too late. So it actually doesn't matter that we lose the move slot here. We don't actually need all 4 move slots on our Swampert. We can just teach it Rock Smash. And it doesn't really hinder us at all. And we're going to equip and use the Mach Bike. Now the Mach Bike, oh, really quickly, we go into the center and immediately leave it. This sets our teleport point for our Abra. So every time we use teleport from now on, we're going to teleport back to Mauville. And this is good for us because Mauville is very central for the beginning of the game. Because anyone who's played this game, you know, you do your first 4 gym badges, you go back to Petalburg, get your 5th badge, and once you beat Petalburg, then you can go east and unlock kind of like the right half of the map. But for the early game where we only have access to the left half of the map, Mauville is very central. It's very close to a bunch of different places. And so it's a good place to set as our hub to go from. And we do that because we have Abra. The old route doesn't have Abra, so it doesn't go into the center. I'm in Torrent right now, so I was able to kill that Ralts with a Water Gun. If you're out of Torrent, you have to Mudshot it. Similarly, this Metatite in Torrent, 2 shots with Water Gun. Out of Torrent, you have to do Water Gun plus Mudshot. Your Mudshot count is extremely important for this route. You have your Mudshot count is very tight. You have some leeway depending on if you have Torrent here and some other things that go certain ways. But you want to conserve as many Mudshots as possible. Right now I have 6 Mudshots at this point, which is pretty good. It's like very solid. Right now I'm at low health, so I potion up. This next fight, the Voltorbs have Sonic Boom, which does 20 damage. Exactly, it's a move that always does 20 damage. So we need to potion out of range where we can die to that. We're also slower than all these Voltorbs because Marshtomp is a very slow Pokemon. So we use an X speed, and now we're faster than all of them. And we get Screech, which we basically just want to avoid Sonic Boom on this fight. It's a 1 in 4. What's the difference between late Brawly in this game versus Emerald? In Emerald, Brawly not only has a Machop and a Makuhita, but also a Metatite. And that makes it extremely annoying to fight him early. It's not really you don't really have a winning fight if you fight him early, like realistically. And also in Emerald, there are 2 extra fights between Brawly and Rival 2. There's 2 trainers with Plusles and Minans, and they give 2 levels worth of experience. So we actually don't need Brawly's experience in Emerald because of those trainers. Whereas in this game, if we skipped Brawly early, we would have not enough experience for Rival 2. We'd only be level 17 instead of 18, I think, and then we're not guaranteed to 2-shot Grovyle with Mudshot. So we have to do something else to make up the experience. And so that's why late Brawly's bad in this game. We kind of just have to risk the early fight. This Magnemite, if you're under half health, will always Sonic Boom. 10% to miss, really nice when it does, but we just don't get this run. We need to not miss Mudshot on this fight because everything has Sonic Boom and will kill us if we miss Mudshot. So this fight, another one, if you miss Mudshot, you die. It's unfortunate how it works out. But Luckily, all three of his Pokemon have very bad defense. Or actually, Magnemite and Magneton have good physical defense, if I'm remembering right. But they're 4 times weak to ground, so... yeah, they just die. Now here is where we're going to start seeing a bunch of differences with the new Abra route. First of all, without the Abra, we would go right and up and kind of go through Falivor, go to Meteor Falls, do that Aqua cutscene, and then go over to Lava Ridge and fight Flannery. But with Abra, instead of going right, we're going to go left, and we're going to get strength early. Normally, on the other route, we would get strength later when we kind of loop back to Mauville and then go up to Lava Ridge. But in this route, because we set our teleport point to Mauville, we can go left early, get this Max Ether, which is very important for Mudshot power points, get early strength, and then we're also going to pick up an HP up that we can sell for money, because the vitamins sell for 4,900 Pokedollars, which is an insane amount. And so, with the Abra, we lose a lot of time at the beginning of this split, because we know we have to go left here, do all this stuff, go get this HP up, and then teleport back. But we're going to save back that time later in the split. We'll talk about that when we get there. But the way the movement on the split works out, it goes even on movement basically versus the old route. Oh, it messed up my movement a bit. Mach Bike, very fun when you're good at it, but it's very hard to control. You move at 4 frames per tile. Since this game is 60 FPS, that's 15th of a second per tile. It's very fast. We teach strength over Water Gun, because we actually don't need Water Gun anymore, and we're out of moves for it anyway. And then we're going to pass a spinner right here. The way it works is if you're going at full speed on the Mach Bike upwards, you can go past a spinner before they're able to spin. So when we go left, we go down to deload that hiker spinner, and then go back up at full Mach Bike speed, and we're able to get past him before he can spin. And then we do a run to bike on him. Run to bikes, similar idea to run to walks. You run to force them to look in a certain direction, and then get on the bike, and it takes 24 frames to pass 2 tiles on the Mach Bike from fully stopped, because you have the ramp up time basically. Yeah. So this fight right here, this is Cool Trainer Brook. I'm actually going to pause on this Roselia for a second. So this fight right here, this is the fight that made me not want to run Sapphire forever. And anyone who's run Sapphire on the old route without Abra knows about Cool Trainer Brook, or CTB. The way the old fight works is, I'm going to paraphrase how Gunnar explains this fight. You're deadlocked into this awful set of circumstances where you kind of have no options. On the old route, you don't have strength yet, so you have to Mudshot this Roselia. Mudshot is a 77% range to Mudshot the Roselia. And if you miss the range, then Roselia uses Mega Drain, and it does like 50 damage or something. It kills you from basically any HP. If you go higher than 50 HP, going into this fight, so that you can actually tank Mega Drain, then the first Pokemon, which I'll back up, is the Wingull. If you're above 50 HP, above 49 HP, I think is specifically the thing, it can use Growl. And if you get growled, then you're not one-shotting Roselia with Mudshot. It's not a range. You'll leave it with like 30 to 35% HP or something like that. And then it uses Mega Drain and heals back up, and you're screwed. So you can't go in at a high enough HP to kind of tank Mega Drain and win that way. So you have to go in Mega Drain kill range. But then what we do on this fight, the first thing we do in this route is we use an X attack. You might be thinking, well, why don't we just use an X attack on the old route? Then we would one-shot Roselia. It wouldn't be a range anymore. That's great. The problem is Wingull doesn't die to a tackle after X attack, because on the old route we don't have strength yet, because the only reason we're able to get strength is because we have Abra. So, you go into this fight. Tackle isn't powerful enough to where you can X attack. So you can't X attack, it just loses a turn. So you have to two-shot the Wingull with Tackle, and then go into the Roselia and use a Mud Shot, and 27% of the time, your run just dies to the Roselia, because you miss the range or you miss Mud Shot. But, with the Abra route, we get early strength, so we can use an X attack, and then just strength everything, and Roselia dies 100% of the time, and this is a free fight. It is almost impossible to die to this fight now with this route, and that is one of the main reasons why this Abra route is so good. Anyone who's run on the old route will tell you how awful Cool Trainer Brook is. Just 1 in 4 of your runs that get here will just die to this trainer. But on this route, it is nearly impossible to die to this fight. The only way you can die to this fight is if you go in at low HP and get crit by Wingull, basically. Which I was actually in Wingull crit range on this run, but I couldn't heal, because if I healed, then it would have been possible to get Supersonic from the Wingull, and you don't want to get Supersonic. You want to keep your full heal. I should talk about that, actually. For many fights in this run, we do HP manipulation, or HP AI manipulation, I should say. If we're at certain HP ranges, it changes what moves the AI can use. Generally, the lower your HP is, the AI can no longer use like status moves, and will use damaging moves instead. And damaging moves are good for us. I'll talk about that a little more when we get to Archie. Here we sell Nugget and HP up and 2 of our TMs that we don't need, and this gets us a ton of money. And here we buy basically everything we need for the entire rest of the run. We buy Escape Rope, Super Repels, X Specials, X Speeds, X Attacks, 1 X Defend, and 2 Guard Specs. And so we buy basically everything we could possibly need for the rest of the run, except for some healing items. We're going to do 1 more shop later to get healing items, and then that's it. Going to heal to full, and then Super Repel. This movement is very satisfying when you do it right. I bonked there, unfortunately. Get this Carbos. We're again going to sell this Carbos for money. Run to bike right there. Messed up my movement a bit. Yeah, this movement's very hard. Right at the start, though, you saw me take a step to the right. The place we use Super Repel on is very specific, so that if we take exactly 6 extra steps, the repel will wear out when we exit this Meteor Falls. And then we can immediately re-up another Super Repel. And then teleport in a single menu. So you're gonna see I take another extra step there, and the repel wears out perfectly. And then we leave, and we use another repel and teleport, go back to Mauville. Without Abra, we'd have to go down through Meteor Falls, go back to Rustboro, go right, go up through the Rustboro Cave, or whatever it's called, go through Vendura Turf Town, I think it's called, and then all the way back to Mauville. But with Abra, we just teleport back. And that kind of saves back the movement, the extra movement we took at the start of this split when we went and got early strength. I missed this run to bike. That's the only run to bike I missed in the entire run. There was a 1 in 8 chance that the spinner could have spun and see me there. Run to bikes are kind of hard. So certain ones are harder than others. Only missing 1 run to bike in the entire run. If you're a top level runner, you shouldn't be missing more than 1, to be honest. But it happens every so often. And I specifically have trouble with that one. I don't know why. It doesn't work out very well. But now we're here. We're going to fight some Team Aqua guys. We have Strength and Mudshot as our main moves for things. Nothing too interesting yet. But the Archie fight. The Archie fight is a prime example of how we try to set up our HP to manipulate the AI. So, if you're above 70% of your maximum HP for this fight, which for this fight is 54 or higher, no, 52 or higher, yes, 52 or higher, They're above 70% HP, then Mightyena is more likely to Sand Attack than Bite. And that's good for us because we set up a guard spec, so Sand Attack does nothing. And similarly, if you're above 70% on the next thing, which is the Golbat, then it's possible for it to Supersonic, which is bad for us. So we want to be as high as possible for the Mightyena, but then we want our HP to go below 70% by the time we get to the Golbat in order to not get Supersonic and get confused. We swap our Abra to the first slot of our party. On the old route, this is where we put our Wingull in front, which we revived earlier, but we don't need to revive it on this route. We just had Abra. And that's to eat the Intimidate from Mightyena so that our Marshtomp doesn't have -1 attack. This fight, we need to go up to 2x attacks and 1x speed. First thing we're going to do on Abra's turn, we're going to guard spec so that Sand Attack does nothing. Very important. Throw in the Marshtomp. We're going to X attack and X speed first. We get Sand Attack, which is good. Again, we're at very high HP, so he's more likely to Sand Attack than Bite. We get Bite on this turn. And this crit right here throws things off for me. But I'm lucky, because again, when your HP is this low, you're more likely to get Bite than Sand Attack. But I got lucky for getting Sand Attacked there. And then instead of setting up the second X attack, I kill the Mightyena. And I'm going to set up the second X attack on this Golbat. We Strength first. And then we're going to heal with a Super Potion. And then X attack again. This wing attack puts us below 70% HP, so we don't get confused anymore. Wing attacks again. And then we finish with a strength. And the reason we need to set up to +2 X attacks is because this Sharpedo right here, if you're only at +1 attack, you are 24% to kill it with a Mud Shot, which is very unlikely. And if you don't kill it, then it deals like 40 damage due with Crunch. So because of that, we have to go up to a +2 X attacks, and then we can just kill it with strength. Killing it with Mudshot is faster because you dodge Rough Skin, but if you miss Mudshot, you die. So most of the time, you opt to strength it just so that you don't risk the 5% death. And now we're going to go to Flannery's Gym. So Flannery on the old route, because we didn't have Abra, we would set up a Poison Death Warp by intentionally getting poisoned by Slugma, winning the fight, and then walking around until the poison ticked us down to 0. And then that would Death Warp us all the way back to Petalburg, because we would enter the Petalburg Pokemon Center at the start of the run. And so that saves a bunch of movement. The problem with that fight is every time that Slugma uses Smog, it's only 28% to poison you, because it's 70% to hit, 40% to poison. And 28% is quite low, and it's not even guaranteed to Smog every turn. It also has Sunny Day and Light Screen. So it's really cool when it works, but most of the time when you watch this fight, you see them do X attack, you do 4X attacks, and then use a Rock Smash to try to stall, and throw Pokeballs to try to stall. It's awful. And so this fight is significantly more consistent. We first kill the first Slugma, which is the one with Smog, because we don't want to get poisoned. We set up an X attack on the second Slugma, which has Flamethrower, Light Screen, Sunny Day. Sunny Day is the worst move by a lot. Light Screen is the best. And so we get Light Screen. Kill with Mudshot, and then now we 2-shot the Torkoal. This Torkoal unfortunately sucks. Its moveset is Body Slam, Attract, Flail, Overheat. It will only use Overheat if it thinks it kills. I get Body Slam and don't get Paralyzed, which is the best outcome. In Sun, Overheat does like 49 to 58 damage or something like that. 48 to 57, looking at my notes. It's awful. Sunny Day sucks for Overheat. The manipulated Mudkip is always male, yes. Starters in every generation are only 1 in 8 to be female. Just a fun fact, it's not 50-50. So now, because we're not doing the old route, we don't get poisoned, and now we have to make our way all the way back to Petalburg. And so that's unfortunate. We don't poison warp all the way back there. First, before we get back to Petalburg, we're going to go in here and buy all of our healing items. And this is actually the last shop we take for the entire run. We skipped 2 shops that the old run took later by selling these vitamins, which sell for so much, and just buying all the healing we could possibly want. I actually did a variation on the standard shopping for this route. Most people do 666. I did 757 because, like, on my previous stream, I had actually run out of heal powders, and I didn't want to run out of heal powders again. So I got 1 fewer energy root, got 1 extra energy powder, 1 extra heal powder. So now we have to get all the way back to Petalburg. And so the old Aber route, the one that was too slow to be viable, at this point would go down to Slateport and boat back to Brawley, fight Brawley now, and then boat to Petalburg. And we could do that just skipping the Brawley fight. We just double boat. The problem is that's really slow. And so this movement right here, where we think, well, what if we go left through that connecting cave, go to Rustboro, and then go down to Petalburg? It turns out that this is actually like 35 to 40 seconds faster than double boating, which is huge. And that's what makes this route work, is the fact that this is so fast to bike back to Petalburg this way. We're going to stop and pick up the beach potion right here because I'm out of potions at this point and I want to have 1 for late game. And then I do. Really bad movement here. But happens. But yeah. And that movement is still significantly slower than, just poison death warping all the way back to Petalburg. But our teleport point is still in Mauville, so after this gym we can teleport to Mauville, whereas without the Aber you'd have to bike to Mauville. And so it's kind of like an even trade on movement. This trainer sucks. Delcatty, you 3-shot it. It uses an X accuracy, and then its moveset is Attract, Sing, Double Slap, Growl. And so it's so easy just to get locked into Attract, into not hitting, into getting put to sleep, and all that good stuff. So I got Sing hit into Growl, which Growl is actually quite rare on this fight, but it's a good outcome. Because I can just, the fight's over, basically. Oh, also Delcatty has Cute Charm as its ability, so if you hit it with a contact move, you can get infatuated and start getting Attract spammed and stuff. Right here we use our Max Ether because we need our mud shots. We used an Ether earlier in the run as well. Forgot to talk about that Ether, but we use a lot of mud shots in this route, so we need a bunch of items for them. This Linoon uses an X Defend, which makes it a 4-shot. I got the world record 2 days ago, I think. This crit on the Linoon is one of the best crits in the run. Because it turns it from a 4-shot to a 2-shot. And you just avoid all... This Linoon has Sand Attack, so it's possible to get trolled by that. But the crit ignores the X Defend, so it does a ton of damage. The way this gym works, for those who don't know, depending on which path you take, they use different X items. And so we get an X accuracy on Delcatty, an X defend on Linoon, and then a dire hit on the Zangoose. And believe it or not, those are actually the best X items we can get through here. The other Delcatty has an X speed, and that's a problem because it's faster than us after we use Mudshot, and then we can get looped into Sing. So that's bad. And then the other Linoon has a guard spec, which means that we never speed fall with Mudshot, which means it's faster than us for the entire fight. And it knows Headbutt, which is 30% to flinch if it's faster. So yeah. Somehow X accuracy and X defend are the good outcomes for these trainers. This is Norman. Norman is, like, percentage-wise, the most likely fight in the entire run to kill you. We start by setting up an X defend. That's how bad this fight is. With the X defend, Slacking's Facade is very unlikely to two-shot us, but it still can two-shot us. Get Yawn here, which is very good, because we're already asleep, so it does nothing. And so yeah, this fight sucks. Get another Yawn, which is unfortunate. And then, because crits ignore X items, if we get crit at basically any point in this entire fight, it kills us from full. And there are so many turns where you have to avoid getting crit. Uses Facade. This is actually a slight misplay. It actually would have been better to heal on that turn because it was a loafing turn for Slacking. So I could have healed to full and not risked a crit death from this Vigoroth. Because if you're full health on this Vigoroth, that's the only time you can tank a crit in this entire fight. It doesn't end up mattering. It loses no time, but I took one unnecessary crit death when I didn't have to. Hey, look at that. Crit, but I lived because I was at full health. Slash is a high crit rate move, is 1 in 8 to crit instead of the standard 1 in 16. And then this second Slacking is a range to 3-shot. So was the first one technically, but the first one is like 98% to 3-shot or something like that. This one is significantly lower. It's a higher level, so it takes less damage. Those first two rolls were pretty average, so this is a range to kill from here. And if you don't kill, it heals to full, so that sucks. But we get it. And so my gym fights here were pretty good. My Norman fight itself was not very good because I got yawned twice. Crit once. But at this point, this is about the halfway point of the run, and Norman is like the last major roadblock for a while. And so once you get past Norman, you kind of think of yourself as being a little home free. You're past the bullshit that's the early game of Sapphire, and now you're transitioning into late game. And so a time of 59:21 is like it's a little bit above average. If you're going for world record, like, you're happy to see a 59:21. It's not the best I've ever gotten. The fastest through Norman is like a 58.3x, I think. And that's an absolutely insane run. I had gotten a 58.4x like a week prior to this run that died to Archie 2 later in the run, which sucked. But we get Surf, we teach Surf, we go get this rare candy. Nothing too interesting. Well, at this point, I know the run is fast enough to be good enough to world record, but there's still so much run left, you don't start thinking about it. Now, because we're Abra route, we teleport right here. Without the Abra, we'd have to go bike all the way back to Mauville. So this saves back the time that we lost biking to Petalburg, basically. And so the way the Abra route works versus the old route, movement basically goes even. There's a You do a little bit of extra movement, so you lose a bit of time to like getting the HP up in the Carbos. But movement's about even, and then the fights are way safer, and a couple of the fights are faster. So it works out well for us. This is a very interesting one. We run to force that spinner to look upwards, get on the bike, move one tile, bag manip, and then we're able to bike past him. This movement is the scariest movement in the game because you have to be tile perfect like 4 separate times. And so I'm playing extremely scared, and I'm just bonking all over the place. My ending is good, though. So now we're in Weather Institute. Nothing too interesting until we get to Shelly. Carvana's died of Mudshot. They also died of Torrent Surf, but I decided to go for Mudshot to save 2 seconds per move. This guy we walk in front of and let him walk to us in order to save some movement. Because I crit Linoon, I actually had an extra strength here. I had 2 extras actually. So I was able to strength this Poochyena instead of surfing it, which saves a few frames. Mudshot the Carvana. And so the way this spinner works is interesting. If we get up to him and he hasn't spun by the time we get to him, he can't spin by the time we pass him. Unfortunately, he does spin on this run. But sometimes you're able to get past him without bag manipping. The way bag manips work is it deloads and reloads the overworld, and that resets the spin timers of the spinners. So it makes it so they can't spin for another 32 frames, and so we can just walk past them. It's the slowest method for passing spinners in this game, but it's also the safest. And in this building, we kind of have no options. There are some weird pause buffer strats, but this Mightyena unfortunately doesn't die, and it can use Bite and Swagger. Bite does 21 damage max. Unfortunately, we get Swagger here, and so at this point, you have a decision to make. Do you risk the 50-50 Swagger hit self, or do you just heal powder? And at this point, I decide that my run is good enough that I can spend the turn heal powdering. And so that's what I do. Some runs are not good enough to do that, and so you end up just YOLOing the 50-50 to hit self. And also sometimes you're at significantly higher HP, you can actually tank one hit self as well. Get a cast form here, we have no choice. That cast form comes in handy for exactly one fight, the infamous Tate and Liza. Talk about that later. We take this bed right here because we're basically out of moves at this point. We have 1 strength, we're low on mud shots. We have some surfs, but we need our strengths and mud shots back, and we also want to heal to full. So that bed is a very convenient way to heal all of that. Then we go into Rival 3. Rival 3, we're going to set up 2x attacks, 1x speed. This Numal, 99% of the time, it's just a free setup mon. But it knows Magnitude, and basically anyone who's run this game has had 1 Magnitude death at some point. Magnitude 9 is not what you want to see on turn 1, because that does a lot of damage. And then I get another Magnitude 9, and so this one it's like, oh god, I could actually die here. If he does another high roll Magnitude. But then he gets Magnitude 6, which does very little. Yeah, the way Magnitude can do anywhere from 4 to 10. I think 7's the most likely. So getting 2 9s. Each 9 is like either 5 or 10% to happen, I think. Pretty unlucky pretty unlucky to take that much damage, but taking a lot of damage on Numal is actually really good because it lets us get Torrent for Winona's Gem. I'll talk about that later in a second, but the fact that I took so much damage there actually helps us in Winona's Gem. But it's also scary when you're nearly dying to the Numal. Right here we dodge some trainers. We set Fortree as our new teleport point by going in and out of the center. And so we're going to go and get the Devon Scope from Steven. And without Abra, we would have to immediately turn around and go fight Winona as a Marsh Tomp still. And that fight sucks. But because we have the Abra, we can instead set Fortree as our fly point, and we can go and do the Mount Pyre stuff first, and then teleport back to Winona. The reason why this game is so annoying to route is because we don't get access to fly until we beat Winona, which is the 6th gym. And so that's why Abra is so important, because it kind of acts as a pseudo-fly for the early game. From the health I was at on Numal, Magnitude 9 was a range to kill me. So I was not that scared, but you know, I didn't want to live in that world where I got another Magnitude 9 and possibly died. So we do some movement here, dodge some optional trainers, go and get this rare candy. We're going to get a total of 3 rare candies in this run, which is actually pretty low for Pokemon speedruns. Most runs get more than that, but this run we only get 3. Go and do some more Mach Bike movement. This is the other really heavy Mach Bike split, the first one being Archie-1. We go and get these Persim berries. These are important for Kyogre later. Spoiler alert, we're getting a Kyogre. We run to bike this trainer. We bike, instead of going to Mount Pyre, we bike right, go over to Lily Cove, go 1 tile into Lily Cove, and then go back. Messed up my movement a bit at the end there, but overall the movement was pretty good, this section. And by going 1 tile into Lily Cove, we get the fly point. So after we beat Winona, we can just fly straight to Lily Cove. Right here, you saw me get on and off the bike before running in. This is a interesting strat where when you're going through a screen transition in this game, if the audio is in the middle of changing when you go through a screen transition, the game has to wait until the audio fully transitions until it loads the next area. And so when we get off of surfing, the audio changes from the surf music to like the route whatever music. And so we would have to wait for that to finish deloading and loading in. But by getting on and off the bike, it very quickly loads and deloads the Mach Bike music, and then that kind of instantly loads the route music. It's a weird quirk of this game. And so by doing that, we can speed up the screen transition. You saw me do something similar. You might have missed it, but before entering the screen I'm currently on, I got off the bike before going through, and that's also an audio transition thing. These trainers are pretty simple. We one-shot everything. Out of Torrent, that Zubat's actually a 15 and 16 range. But I'm in Torrent, so it was super guaranteed. I Mudshot this Mightyena. Surf also kills the Mightyena, or Poochyena rather. Surf also kills it, but your Surf count is not super tight, but there are certain situations where you have to use a bunch of extra Surfs, and if you run out of Surfs for Archie 2, it is extraordinarily bad. So I Mudshot the Poochyena in order to save that Surf. And now, in order to get Torrent for Winona's Gym, because I'm going to evolve after this, I need to take 10 damage from here. Each Rough Skin from Carvana does 5, so I strength these 2 Carvanas instead of Mudshotting them. They each deal 5 damage to me from Rough Skin. That puts me down to 10 HP. And so after I use my rare candies and evolve into Swampert, I will be in exact Torrent for Winona's Gym. And that makes the fight significantly more likely to go well. It's very rare that you get Torrent for Winona's Gym, because you need to take a lot of damage from Numal. But when it does happen, it's very, very nice. And the fact that there are Carvanas here makes it a bit easier to get to Torrent. Get this last rare candy. We use our rare candies on Marshtomp, get to level 36, evolve to Swampert. And with the Swampert evolution, it makes Winona's gym significantly nicer. We're going to do a few more things in this menu. We're going to teach Fly to our Wingull. Even though we can't use it yet, this is a good time to teach it because we're already in the menu. And then we're going to go take the Mystic Water off of Cast Form, take the Soft Sand off of Swampert, give the Mystic Water, and then teleport. My favorite legendary is Zapdos, also my favorite Pokemon. My favorite starter, I'm not sure, I'd have to think about that. Now we're back in Fortree, and we can go into the gym. These first two fights are pretty simple. We strength this Doduo, we surf the Swablu. Out of Torrent, Surf is actually only a 7 and 16 range to kill, and that Swablu can do some annoying things as Sing and Fury attack. But because we're in Torrent, it kills. So that's one of the benefits of Torrent, but not the big one. So now I can talk about the Winona fight. On the old route, you're not able to go do the Mount Pyre stuff early because you have no way to get back to Fortree without biking all the way back, and that's extraordinarily slow. And actually, I think there might be ledge hops that make it so you can't even get back at all. I'm sure there's a way to get back. I think you could soft lock yourself if there was no way to get back. Anyway. But the route is too slow if you do it that way. You have no real efficient way to get back to Winona's gym, so you have to do Winona early when you're only a Marshtomp. And that makes it so the standard fight for Winona on that route is you have to hit a Surf through 2 double teams, which is 60%, and it's also a 65% range. So it's like 38% to go well, 40% to go well, or something like that. With this route, because I'm in Torrent, I X speed, I'm now faster than the Swellow, and now there's only 1 double team up, and it's guaranteed to kill. And so it's just so much better. If you're out of Torrent, you also have to set up an X special, so sometimes you have to hit it through 2 double teams still, but it always kills, no matter what. There's 2 different Winona strats. You can either go to 1 X attack or 3 X attacks. I opted to go for 3 X attacks on this run. It's hard to talk about the differences between the two. Like when one is better and one is worse. But in this situation, 3 is better because it's hard to say, honestly. The way Pelipper worked out, I think I got Protect on turn 1, and that made doing 3 better. Unfortunately, Skarmory is a 12 and 16 range if you don't set up the X special. I missed it, which is unfortunate, losing a bit of time. I heal right here because Strength is only a 12 and 16 range to kill the Altaria, and so if I missed the range on Altaria, I would die. And also, by healing, I got better HP for the Mat fight coming up. Because you need ideally your HP is in between like 33 and 51 for that section. And so if I finished this fight with 11 HP, I would have no way to get in that range. I would have to heal up to 61, and that's not great. But by healing on the Altaria, not only am I mitigating the risk by avoiding the death if I miss the range, but I'm also ending up at 42 HP, which is basically perfect. So that Winona fight almost went really well, but missing the range on the Skarmory. Unfortunately lost quite a bit of time. Still gold at the split. Oh wait, no, it's a fake gold. No, that's a real gold. Yeah. I just had a bad rival 3. That's what it was. Anyway, now we're on the Tate and Liza split of the run, and this split sucks. This split basically consists of 3 fights, and all 3 of the fights are extremely troll in their own ways. We'll talk about them as we get there. But the fact that I have really good HP right here helps a lot. So we go and we bike over to the Aqua Hideout. We have no repel up for those, so it's actually possible to get an encounter on those like 8 surf tiles or whatever it is. It's pretty rare, but it's annoying when it happens. This is a rotator, so we can just walk straight past him. You see how he's spinning in a consistent way. The way they're organized in this section is weird in that you can dodge every trainer. They're really bad at their jobs. In Emerald, there are a couple mandatory double battles in this section, but in Sapphire, the only mandatory double battle is Tate and Liza. So we're going to fight Matt here. The way Matt works is his Sharpedo is faster than you, and you really, really hope that it doesn't use Crunch, because you want to keep this HP for the next fight. And if it uses Crunch, it makes things significantly worse. Also, you need to hit your Mud Shots. These are the last Mud Shots of the run, by the way. And I get Focus Energy, which is perfect. If you're not in Torrent, this Mightyena is also a 14 and 16 range, but I'm in Torrent, so it just dies. So this was a good fight. And now we're gonna... Oh, I messed up my movement there. That's a new one. Just to kind of put you guys in the headspace I was in for this run. This was the 4th run in a week that I'd gotten to this point in the run on world record pace. 2 of those runs died in stupid ways. One of them got a 158.07, which is like a mediocre time. And so this is the 4th one, and I was just so done with this game trolling me in stupid ways. I repel in a specific spot here so it wears out right in front of the door. It's optimal for saving time, basically. Get Dive here. And now we're going to teach Dive to Swampert. And with that, Swampert becomes... It has a moveset of 4 HMs. And we're lucky that Kyogre can learn Waterfall. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to teach water. We can't teach Waterfall to Swampert. It doesn't have enough move slots. Alright, so first fight is this Xatu. Xatu is faster than you, and it's a 2-shot. Its moveset consists of Wish, Future Sight, and Nightshade. Because I have good HP, I only die to double Nightshade. Every other fight is fine. And you need to be at kind of low health going into Tate and Liza. Of course, I get Nightshade on turn 1, so right now I'm like, oh, please don't do this to me. I want to play the game. And luckily I get Future Sight. So unfortunately, this HP is a little bit worse for Tate and Liza versus what I had before. But the difference between a little bit worse and the next worst damage you can be at, which is high health, is so monumentally large that it's pointless to even think about this as being bad HP. This is still extremely good HP. And so like this entire section is about trying to get good HP for going into the Tate and Liza fight. Because this fight... Oh boy, this fight. So, the way this fight works, they only have 2 Pokemon, Solrock and Lunatone. And they're both weak to Surf. So what's the problem? You should have an easy fight here. Well, unfortunately, Surf, when it hits 2 targets, deals half damage to each of them. Solrock is arranged to die in 2 hits to Surf, and Lunatone never dies in 2 hits to Surf. And they're also over-leveled compared to you. So yeah, this fight is not... This is the worst fight in the run. Well, I should say it was the worst fight in the run. It's actually... This is one of the major fights that's made better by the Abra route. And the reason for that is because we get an extra Pokemon on the side to work with. We have Wingull, Abra, and Cast Form on the side to work with. So, in order to fully explain how this fight works... I'd need an hour seminar, basically. I've written a document going over a lot of the details of this fight, but it's not comprehensive, and that document is still 7 pages long for this one fight. This fight is infamous for how complicated it is. But the basic idea for this fight is, if the AI sees that it has a kill on one of your Pokemon with Psychic, it will always use Psychic on that Pokemon. So, we want to keep our Pokemon at low HP going into this fight so that it baits the AI into using Psychic. Because the moves that Lunatone has that aren't Psychic are Calm Mind, Light Screen, Hypnosis, all 3 of which are awful. And then Solrock has Solar Beam, Sunny Day, Flamethrower. Never uses Flamethrower, basically. And so... That's why low HP is so important going into this fight. Because if you're at high HP, then Lunatone can just Light Screen on turn 1 and you're screwed. You can't win from there. Really. So I'm going to unpause now. The way you play this fight is you start by X speeding. Now you're faster. And then you heal. Because you're at low health, it baits the AI into using their damaging moves. Which is what you want. Because if it's not using a damaging move, it's bad for us. Solrock kills the Wingull, and so I send in Abra. Lunatone kills the Abra. This is one of the worst opening turns you can get. Now, my Swampert is at full health. Two of my HM slaves are dead. And it's only 1 turn's back. They're both at full health still. So this is awful. If Lunatone targets Swampert now, it won't see a kill, and it'll use one of its bad moves. If Solrock targets Swampert, it will usually use Solar Beam. But there's a chance it doesn't use Solar Beam and uses Sunny Day instead. And that is horrendously bad. You don't want to be surfing in Sun. By the way, if you hit start on double battles, it turns on damage numbers. Really, really helpful for this fight. So anyway, Cast Form is out. Now that I've set up my X speed, I'm going to Surf and Rain Dance. Surf deals about 40% damage to Lunatone, and it deals... That's a good roll on Solrock. It did over halves. I get Sunny Day from Solrock, which is really what you don't want to see. If Cast Form dies right here, if Lunatone killed my Cast Form, it was a dead run. I could not recover from there. Because then Cast Form would die, Sun would be up, Surf would be doing half damage. I couldn't win. It would have been impossible to win. I got lucky, Lunatone targeted Swampert, and so it used Calm Mind instead. And that keeps my cast form alive long enough to counter the sunny day with a rain dance. And now, the way this fight goes is Solrock is guaranteed to die from here. Lunatone is arranged to die from here. I'm really hoping I kill Lunatone, which I do with a crit. If Lunatone didn't die, then it would have healed the full, and that's annoying. Not the end of the world, but it is annoying. And so, specifically because I got lucky and Lunatone didn't target cast form at the end there, I was able to get the rain dance off and win the fight. This fight is probably the most technically complicated fight in all of Pokemon speedrunning. There are so many branching paths you have to... It's impossible to prepare for every possible path this fight can take. You have to understand how the AI works and adapt on the fly. The meme for this fight is you have to X speed and adapt. I've written a document to kind of teach people how to adapt by understanding how the AI works. But you got to just practice this fight. You got to throw yourself at this fight over and over. Really understand how the AI works. And even now, I understand this fight probably more than anyone else in the entire world. The only other person who might know it better than me is Gunnar. And even I still make mistakes, because it's really hard in the moment to figure out the exact optimal play to make on every turn. But yeah, that's the Tate and Liza fight. Oh yeah, Exarion probably on it. Well, so Exarion doesn't know this fight with the Abra, is the thing. The fight is actually quite a bit different with the Abra in the back. On that turn, I got Solrock targeted partner, Lunatone targeted partner. On the old route, if you got that, it was basically a dead run, because both of your partners were dead. And so you only had a Swampert left against two of their things at full health. But with the Abra, you have that extra thing to work with, and so I was able to throw out the cast form. And as you saw there, cast form was instrumental in letting me win that fight by countering the sunny day. So yeah, it's super good to have the Abra for that fight, just to give you it often buys you one extra turn with a thing on the side, and that can make all the difference. Alright, we do a run to walk to pause on this spinner. Same ideas as we've had throughout this point in the run. It's just specific strategies to make it so we're guaranteed to pass. I'm sure these puzzles were hard when you were 7. They're not hard when you're in your 20s and also have done it before dozens of times. I'll let you in on a secret. I've memorized the solutions to all of them. Oh, also, with Abra Route, you're a level higher for Tate and Liza. You're level 38 instead of 37. And that actually makes a big difference. At level 37, you're arranged to kill Solrock with Surf and plus Dive. At level 38, it's guaranteed, and it's a 40% range to two-shot Solrock with 2 Surfs when it never kills at level 37. This fight is pretty annoying, honestly. The Sharpedo never dies in one hit, even though it looks like it's close. It's just barely too much damage. I'm hoping to take damage here, actually, because I want to be at low-ish health going into Archie. But I get Screech plus Taunt, which is a bit unfortunate. So my health is high right now. And so at this point, I'm preparing. Okay, I probably need to stall a turn on Archie. Because Archie, you need to get down into Torrent in order to win the fight. So it's okay, in that position, if I have to stall, what am I doing? And so I'm going through all my options. I could Rock Smash something to stall a turn. I could Strength something to stall a turn. And then I realized, I didn't use the X Special on Winona, which is, you use the X Special on Winona if you're not in Torrent. So at that point, I'm okay, If I have to stall a turn, I can X special and I'm good. And so that's my thought process at this point. Because given how high my health is, I'm very likely that I need to stall a turn in order to get down into Torrent, just with how the AI works. And so that's what I'm thinking about. That item all right there is Earthquake. We skip it because this is literally the last fight we use with Swampert, and we also can't teach it anyway. It's just funny that we run straight past Earthquake when we have a Swampert. Alright, so Archie 2. A couple days prior to this run, I had lost my best run ever. That was like 15 seconds faster than this one at this point to this fight by getting crit. And so I am not happy with Archie at this point. This fight, we start with a guard spec. This thing is most likely to use a Scary Face every turn, but it can use Swagger and Takedown. We're really hoping we don't get Swagger. We just have 2X specials, and I get really lucky here. I get Takedown. Takedown is rare, especially when you're at this high health, I think. I actually don't know about that, but Scary Face is way more likely than Takedown. But because I get Takedown on exactly the last turn I have to set up on this Mightyena, that deals enough damage that I no longer have to stall to get into Torrent. Because 2 hits from this Crobat is now guaranteed to put me in Torrent. So I don't have to stall at all. I set up the X speed. Uses Wing Attack. And then I'm still slower, so it uses another Wing Attack. And now I'm in Torrent. If I didn't get Takedown, I would not be in Torrent right here. So I would have had to stall a turn with the X special. That Takedown was extremely lucky. And then Sharpedo dies because I'm in Torrent. I forget if I answered this, but yes, we use the Mystic Water. 10% boost to water moves. In Emerald, that Mystic Water is super important for this fight. I don't think it's important in Sapphire, but I could be wrong. Alright, so that was the last fight with Kyogre. And so at this point, or my last fight with Swampert, rather. So at this point, my mind is just thinking Kyogre Manip, Kyogre Manip. I have to mentally prepare for Kyogre Manip. Kyogre Manip is a save and quit Manip, where we manipulate excellent stats in the Kyogre, and we manipulate catching it with a Great Ball. It is a 3-frame window to catch with a Great Ball. 3 frames is a 20th of a second. And it's even worse than that, because those 3 frames, it's actually a moving target based on exactly which Kyogre you hit and when you go into your bag for complicated reasons. And you don't know which Kyogre you hit until after you catch it. So Kyogre Manip is a huge barrier right at the end of the run. I have practiced the hell out of Kyogre Manip, because nothing feels worse than getting a late game on world record pace and missing Kyogre Manip, because every time you fail it, it costs you 45 to 50 seconds. It sucks, but it's so hard that most runners have, lost PBs to Kyogre Manip at some point, or lost significant time. So at this point, I am attempting to mentally prepare myself for Kyogre Manip. And then also, immediately before Kyogre Manip, is also the hardest biking in the entire run. So I can't even fully commit my brain to Kyogre Manip, because my brain needs to be preparing for this biking right here. Which I do pretty well. I bonk once. But other than that, I get this one really good. And then we lead into Cave of Origin, which you're biking in the dark on the Mach Bike. So yeah, hardest biking movement in the entire run, immediately followed by a nearly frame perfect RNG manipulation. It's like, the way to think about it is it's like, you can kind of think about it like a 3-frame window into a 2-frame window. It's technically another 3-frame window, but it's weird because it's a bit of a moving target. My biking here wasn't great, but I've certainly had worse. This room was pretty good. And this room's easy. So we run in here. We save and quit, and we do a Kyogre manip. You can actually save further away from Kyogre. The problem is, if you take steps during the RNG manipulation, if your step count hits 128 and rolls back to 0 during the manip, it screws up the manip. So you want to take as few steps as possible during the manip. I could have saved one tile later, but I'm used to saving on that tile. And the way steps work out, taking 2 steps is generally not going to affect your step count, making things mess up. So the first input was right there, closing that text box to set the stats. And now I have to time opening the bag and time throwing the Great Ball. And at this point, you just have to pray. It's like, did I get it in time? How practiced am I? How confident am I? 1, 2, 3, and it stays in. And at this point, once I get the Kyogre, I know that I'm pretty likely to get world record from here. Kyogre doesn't have a lot of bad fights through the rest of the run. There's basically one. So we teach Shockwave. I look at the HP, and 156 HP tells me that this is the mild Kyogre, which is the best Kyogre. Sort of. It's complicated. But mild is the best, basically. Because it's a plus special attack nature. And it's a full special attacker, so. We teach Surf. Because it's mild, we also teach Waterfall. If we were not mild, we would delay teaching Waterfall until after the Wallace fight, because we would need Hydro Pump. But because we're mild, we don't need Hydro Pump, and so we teach Waterfall on this menu. And then because I'm nervous, I mess up this menu. I have to give the Persim Berry. The escape rope. I've practiced this menu a lot, but there's no way to practice for being on a run on world record pace, you know? I take Mystic Water here, swap Kyogre to slot 1. And now I'm going to go to Wallace's gym. Now, immediately following Kyogre manip, at this point my hands are super tingly because I know I'm on world record pace in the end game. I can barely feel my hands at this point. This gym is the most stressful thing in the world on world record pace. If you mess up a single tile of movement in here, you lose minutes. It's very easy to not mess up a single tile of movement. But when you're on world record pace and it's hard to feel your hands, it's very stressful. You do not want to lose a run to messing up that gym puzzle. I have before. It feels bad. Anyway, this fight, the ability Drizzle actually works against us for this fight because 2 of the Pokemon on his team have Swift Swim. I get Sweet Kiss Miss on turn 1, which is by far the best outcome. We equip the Persim Berry for this fight because there are 3 things that can confuse us. Sweet Kiss just confuses you, so it's really good that it missed. Because we want to keep that Persim Berry for as long as possible. We use an X special. I get lucky. This thing normally uses Amnesia, but used Earthquake, so that means Surf is a guaranteed kill. I miss input and use Waterfall by accident, but because it didn't use Amnesia, and possibly also because I'm mild, it still killed, so it bailed me out. And then we just Shockwave the rest of the fight. Really quickly, I'll talk about the different Kyogres. I aim for a 3-frame window for Kyogre stats. I got the mild, which is plus special attack. The 2 others are a Calm, which is basically, it's like plus special defense minus attack. It's a useless nature. But it has 31 IV special attack and also really good speed. So it's still really good. And then there's the Hasty, which is plus speed minus defense. The plus speed makes it so you save about a turn and a half throughout the run. You save 1 turn on Drake by not having to X speed, and you save like half a turn on this fight by using the X speed here instead. The problem with the Hasty is it only has like 26 IV special attack, 25 IV special attack, something like that, which is still very high. You know, the range is 0 to 31, but it's not quite high enough for what we need it for. And it makes it so there are like 5 or 6 different damage ranges. And so if you get the Hasty, top end that saves the most time, because you save a turn and a half from having plus speed. But that's only if you hit every single damage range. And you're hitting every single damage range with the Hasty is like sub 50%. I don't know what it is exactly, but... The Mild, by contrast, because it's plus special attack and also has like 29 IV special attack, its special attack is ludicrous. And so it doesn't have a single damage range in the entire run. And it also makes it so you can surf the Whiscash instead of hydro pumping it in the case of Amnesia. That's why it's complicated. Because the Mild has 0 damage ranges, so I tend to call that one the best. But the Hasty has the best top end, if you happen to get all the damage ranges. Alright, coming up here is Victory Road. Most of Victory Road is mock biking in the dark, but I am significantly more practiced in it than I am with Cave of Origin. Mess up movement right at the start. Very nice. Really quickly, I think it's kind of self-evident why Kyogre is good for the speedrun, but just for the sake of completeness, I'll explain it. Kyogre's special attack, its base special attack is bonkers. It's like 150 special attack or something like that. It's insane. Its ability Drizzle just gives it a free 50% boost to its damage moves for every fight. So it's basically a free X special every fight, except it's also better than an X special. Because when you stack multiple X specials, you have diminishing returns. That movement was really good. When we catch Kyogre, it comes with Ice Beam already, and then we teach it Shockwave and Surf and Waterfall. That water, ice, electric is insane coverage types for this endgame. It's like we have amazing moves for every Pokemon basically. With the one exception being Glacia, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So yeah, Kyogre actually busted, even though it's only level 45, which in Emerald, your Rayquaza you catch is level 70. And Kyogre is arguably better than Rayquaza in endgame. I'll put a mess up there and forget to Super Repel for a couple tiles. I got lucky, no encounters. And yeah, Kyogre is just so good that it trivializes basically all of these endgame fights. Not a whole lot interesting going on in the fights. This what is it? This Ninetales ends up quick attacking me, which is kind of annoying, but it happens. It's decently likely to quick attack. And so at this point in the run, the one thing I'm thinking of is Glacia. Glacia is basically Kyogre's only bad fight. Wallace is a little bad because there are 3 things that can confuse you. But you just need to get a little lucky with not getting confused, and the fight's generally fine. There's also Whiscash can be a little annoying. But yeah, at this point in the run, I'm thinking about Glacia, because Glacia is basically the only thing left in the run that can stop me from getting world record. It's Kyogre's only bad fight, and the reason it's Kyogre's bad fight is because half her team is water types. So the move we have to deal with that is Shockwave, but Shockwave is only 60 base power and doesn't get boosted by Drizzle. So it's quite weak. It's a shame we don't have Thunder, but Thunder also wouldn't be perfect for Glacia, if we're being honest. But yeah, I'm looking at my splits at this point in the run. I know I have a solid lead over world record. My splits say I only have a 4-second lead over world record, but that's misleading because of route differences, basically. The target is a better representation of my actual pace at this point. So I see I have 25, 26-second lead over world record at this point. And so it's hard not to get excited at a time like this. Sapphire had been kicking my ass for years at this point, and I finally had a chance to actually get record. And so I knew I had to buckle down and make sure I played correctly and just pray on Glacia. Because if Glacia goes bad, it can go really bad. But if it goes well, then I probably get world record. That's what I'm thinking at this point in the run. Oh, we're fighting Wally right here. His team is free. No, I don't practice on emulator. I have a save loader on my GBI that I use to practice certain sections of the run. But emulator is not a good thing to practice on if you're running on console, because the input lag is significantly different. So practicing Mach Bike on emulator is basically useless if you're running on console. So we go in. We have a team of 5 Pokemon right now. And so with 5 Pokemon, it's actually faster to deposit your other 4 before going in. On the old route, which doesn't get Abra, it's actually faster to not deposit. Yes, practicing Tate and Lies on emulator is good. That's kind of the only thing that's worth practicing on emulator, though, to be honest. The only other thing that's worth practicing are RNG manipulations and Mach Bike movement, basically. Alright, so first elite four member is Sydney. Sydney is free. We one-shot all of his Pokemon. With bad, or not with bad, with the other Kyogres, Sharpedo's a damage range. 14 or 15 and 16, depending on which Kyogre. Oh yeah, I mentioned the calm, hasty, mild Kyogres. There's also a hardy nature Kyogre that I don't go for because it sucks. But it is technically part of the window of stats. It's like as bad as the hasty with damage ranges, but you don't get the plus speed nature, so it's just bad. With the mild, because of plus special attack, the Sharpedo is just Omega dead. It's not a range. This Absol knows Snatch. If it uses it, it's priority move, so it loses a bit of time. This Shift Tree knows Fake Out, and I do actually end up getting Fake Out on this run. So that loses a bit of time. And so at this point, I'm panicking a little. I'm making sure that I tank a hit from Dusclops Shadow Ball. So in this next fight, the Dusclops is going to get one turn, and at this low health, it's almost guaranteed to use Shadow Ball, if not guaranteed. The other move it can use is Confuse Ray, but it might only use it at high HP. This is going to go on YouTube, don't worry. So this fight is nearly free. Unfortunately, we don't one-shot the last Dusclops, so we give it one turn to do something. Like I said, it's either Shadow Ball or Confuse Ray. The only bad thing that can really happen is Shadow Ball crit. If you get Confuse Ray, you just heal it off. So, yeah, I'm hoping and praying that I don't get crit. Because, again, my headspace at this run, I've been playing this game for so long. My splits don't exactly reflect that because I lost a bunch of my old splits. But I've been playing this game on and off for 2 years at this point. And it had just kicked my ass. It just refused to let me get anywhere. And at this point, this was my 5th run that made it to late game in a week. And so I'm like, I'm never going to get luck this good again. I got to capitalize on this. And so I'm just praying that I can make it to the end of the run at this point. This Dusclops, if we surf it on turn 1, it puts it into heal range and doesn't kill it. So we'd start with a Shockwave. Do a little bit of damage. Shadow Ball doesn't crit. And so we're past Phoebe. And up next is Glacia. So the problem with Glacia is her ace is a Wall Rain. Wall Rain is a water ice type, which means it resists Surf, Waterfall, and Ice Beam. The only move we have that's good against it is Shockwave. Shockwave is 60 base power. It is by far our worst move. In addition, Wall Rain is extremely bulky. So in order to one-shot it, we actually need to set up 3 X specials. And because Shockwave is not a water-type move, Drizzle doesn't help it at all. Whereas if it was a water-type move, it's possible we could have gotten away with 1 X special on this fight. Except we couldn't because of reasons that'll happen in a second. But we need to get set up to 3 X specials on this fight. We're going to set up 2 of them on this Celio. On turn 1, because it's raining, this thing will always use Hail. That's the other reason this fight sucks. Hail is super slow, and every extra turn is even longer because you're getting Hail. Then it uses Body Slam. It always uses Body Slam on this turn. Body Slam is 30% to paralyze you every turn. If it paralyzes us, we have to heal it off. We can't win the fight paralyzed because we're too slow. And so if you get chain paralyzed on this fight, you can lose a lot of time. And so this is what I'm terrified of for this run. This is basically the only thing that can go wrong for the rest of the run. There's one other thing. We'll get to that in a second. But I see the Body Slam hit. I know my HP is picking down. I'm just praying that I don't get paralyzed. If I don't get paralyzed, I almost certainly world record. If I do get paralyzed, it gets complicated. And so I'm just hoping that it doesn't paralyze. And it doesn't. And so at this point, I know that world record is extremely likely, higher than 90%. That was only 2 X specials. We have to set up 1 more for the Wall Rain. We set it up on the second Glalie, because we don't want to set it up on the thing that has Body Slam and can paralyze us. And the Celio has Blizzard, which is fast if it misses. But if it's 10% to freeze us, and we don't want to deal with that. Shadow Ball, its secondary effect is it lowers our special defense, which is a little slow, but it doesn't actually matter for the remainder of the fight, because it's the last hit we take for the fight. And now we're through the fight. This is the gatekeeper for Kyogre. If you can get past Glacia, you're pretty solid to finish the rest of the fight without incident. However, there is one more thing that can happen. The next fight with Drake is free. You have to set up an X speed. It almost always Dragon Dances. Nothing happens. Drake is free. But there's one last thing that can happen. I'm going to have, I think, 76 HP going into Steven. Steven leads a Skarmory. We have to set up an X special on that Skarmory. So we give Skarmory one turn. Skarmory's moveset is Spikes, Toxic, Aerial Ace. It might have a fourth move. I've never seen it use it. Might be Roost. That makes sense. But it never uses it. Spikes is super fast. Toxic is super slow. But because I'm under half health, I think Toxic is impossible. And then there's Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace does around 45 damage. So I tank it from here, but a crit kills me. And Rock Tomb is not a thing in this fight. That's Emerald. Fourth move is Steel Wing. Okay, it'll never use Steel Wing because we're a water type. We resist Steel Wing. Aerial Ace does more. But yeah, I'm debating in my head. If I use an Energy Powder right here and heal 50, I'm guaranteed to finish the run. I cannot lose to Steven. But I'm taking the time to use a healing item to play around a 1 in 16 crit. He's not even guaranteed to use Aerial Ace. He can also use Spikes. And if I heal, then I can get Toxic, which loses more time. So I'm so torn right here between I really, really want to finish a run. I hate this game. I don't want to die on Champ. I just want to get a good time. But also, I don't think I can justify using a healing item for Champ. It's too much time lost to play around too small of a chance of something going wrong. And so that's my headspace right now. It's like, can I justify using a healing item to guarantee like a low 157? Or do I go in, risk the 1 in 16 crit, and if I win, which I'm extremely likely to win, I get a 156. And in the end, I decide I cannot justify healing at the skill level that I play at. It's playing too scared. I'm like 97, 98% to win this fight without healing. So I go in. And so this is the last turn of the run. If I get Aerial Ace crit, I die. If anything else happens, I get world record. So we go into our bag, we X special, and Spikes. And that right there is when I knew I had world record. I had 6 Surfs here, so I knew I had enough Surfs for the entire fight. You actually only need 2 Surfs for this fight, but Surf is faster than Waterfall, so you Surf everything. Oh, I missed this question. Why no X special on the first Glalie? If you use 1 X special on the first Glalie, it'll open with Hail. Every single thing on our team knows Hail. So the first turn you give anything on our team, it'll always use Hail. So if we use 1 X special on the Glalie, it'll use Hail, and that gets rid of our Rain. And so we're at the exact same place we started at. We get the 50% boost from the X special, but we lose the 50% boost from Rain. If we set up a second X special on Glalie, it knows Light Screen. And Light Screen like halves the damage of your special moves, and we're a full special attacker. And so we can't have Light Screen happen, so we have to kill the Glalie. Yeah, this grind was actually super productive for me. I came back to this game to prepare for a Games Done Quick event for Sapphire races. And then within a week of that happening, of doing the GDQ event, I got world record in this run. And I think I got 6 runs to Norman's gym in 2 streams, 5 of which got past Norman, which is a crazy rate. And then 3 of those 5 died to extremely stupid things. One of them got a 158, which lost a minute on RG2, and then this run got world record. I got an absolutely insane string of luck in this grind, getting that many runs late game. Because in my previous grind, my first grind of this game kicked my ass. I could not get past RG1. I would die to RG1 all the time. Every time I get past RG1, I would die to Flannery. Norman was awful. On the extremely rare occasion I would get past Norman, I would usually hit an optional on the route after that, because it's really hard to bike well on that route. You have to be tile perfect in 4 different places. And so I hate this game. But for some reason on this grind, it decided I had enough of the bullshit and let me through. Not completely enough of the bullshit. I still lost a lot of runs to really dumb bullshit. But it actually did let me through, and I got the first 156. I couldn't be happier. So yeah, that was the post commentary for the new Sapphire world record. First Sapphire world record with the new Aber route. In the YouTube description, I'll probably post a link to Gunner's video talking about the changes in the Sapphire route. I go over the changes during this post commentary, but he kind of condenses all the changes into a 15-minute video. Yeah, I hope this post commentary is entertaining. Gunner has completed 2 runs, maybe 3 runs with this Aber route. His PB with the Aber route is a 158 2x, I think. His actual PB is a 15721. And so it was known for a long time, or at least it was theorized for a long time that this route was world record viable. But no one had been able to get world record pace runs with this route, really, until myself on this grind, and also Mockwing has gotten some really good pace runs with this route. He has the best ever Norman with this route, with like a 58 3x, I think, which is a crazy Norman time. And then he dies to Rival 3. Good times. Keep going, Mockwing. I'm sure you'll get it soon. But yeah, this run getting world record, and on top of world record, also getting a 156. Finally proved that this route is world record viable. And it's, Cool Trainer Brook goes from a 27% death to almost completely free. Flannery goes from a super annoying fight where you have to stall a bunch of turns to get poisoned into a kind of annoying fight where you can die to Torkoal, but it's generally fine and it's pretty fast. Winona becomes a lot less annoying. Tate and Liza, if you know what you're doing, your win rate is significantly higher. Some other miscellaneous stuff. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this route. Yep. Thanks for watching.